Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the second of 3 public interviews of finalists for the position of Dean of the College of Liberal Arts here at Nichols. We hosted a finalist yesterday, and we will host a 3rd finalist on Friday of this week. Like today, all public interviews of finalists are held here in 152 IO Hall from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. My name is Bridget Scott, and I will moderate this session. Appearing today is our finalist, Dr. Michele Theriot of Nichols. Between now and 2 p.m., I will conduct a moderated interview with our finalists. This is how we will proceed. Audience members may ask questions of the candidate by submitting a written question on cards distributed by Ms. Chastity Record. Please wave so everyone, thank you. If you need a card, please raise your hand and one will be delivered to you. Please only submit questions on these cards. If you have a question to submit, please raise your card and Ms. Chastity will notice you and retrieve it and bring it down. The questions will then be delivered to me at the podium, and then I will directly address the finalists with the question. And finally, please lend these proceedings your full and quiet attention. Dr. Theriot, you may begin with a brief introductory statement.
Okay, thank you. I have to start off by saying this is a lot nicer than what we have in Pelche, so a little bit jealous. But nevertheless, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm really excited to have been selected as a finalist for this position. And thinking about what I would say to begin, I certainly put a lot of thought into it, made a draft and a redraft and a redraft, and then ultimately decided that I'd do something that makes me really uncomfortable. And that's talking about myself. So just bear with me so I can give you an idea of who I am. This is a little like Fall of the House of Usher-ish, my tree doesn't branch out that much. I grew up in Thibodaux. Nichols was, I knew Nichols was there. I knew it was in my hometown. So I've had an awareness of Nichols since I guess I had awareness. I knew that Nichols made my community unique. Having a university in a small town like Thibodaux seemed like such an advantage. When it came time for me to go to college, thanks to my parents' very forceful prodding, I became a student at Nichols and never regretted it. But I came to Nichols in 1989, so like last century, and I was an accounting major. I don't know why. No offense to any business people here, but that was really not what I should have been doing. Nevertheless, I spent about 2 years in business courses until I had to take a gen ed lit course. I took poetry and drama, the old English 256, and not to be melodramatic, but the course really changed my life. I graduated from a small school here in Thibodaux that didn't necessarily encourage free thinking. So when I got into the meat of that poetry and drama course and had my professor read Shakespeare to me, I thought, what manner of sorcery is this? This is just amazing. And it really opened my mind to a completely new way of looking at the world. I actually started asking questions about things and just realized that there was something much bigger out there than me. I joined the faculty in 1995 as an adjunct instructor and subsequently worked my way through the ranks. I think I was a visiting instructor, then an instructor, and then moved up. While I was teaching here, I decided, you know, it sounds like a good idea, a PhD. So I would teach my classes during the day and then drive to Lafayette at night and take my classes. And then eventually I earned my PhD in 2000. And of course, that's what allowed me to move up the ranks. In the last 15 years or so, I have had some kind of leadership position that was a complement to my role as a faculty member. I have served as an associate department head, as assistant dean, and then finally in the last year, interim dean. I was never a department head, obviously, but I think some of the things that I did in those various roles were similar in some ways. As an associate department head, I did act in a lot of ways in the absence of my department head, or I got to see that world. Same thing with being assistant dean. I really got to dip my foot into that pond of what it meant to be a dean at various times. The kinds of things that I've done, I've advised students. I've engaged in research and service. I participated in curriculum development and assessment. I created class schedules or kind of oversaw the creation of schedules. I've led search committees or just been, I think I was like search committee head in residence for a while in the English department. I've recruited new faculty, new students. I have endured COVID-19 and HyFlex, and recovered and put the pieces back together after various hurricanes. I have worked on fundraising, resolved or attempted to resolve conflicts. And for the most part, I managed to get my annual HR training. I'm not going to look at Allison. Most of my HR training done on time in that process. And while all of these activities have certainly been very meaningful and impactful, and they gave me a great deal of institutional knowledge, I think what they really helped me to come to terms with is that there were things at the administrative level that I actually liked. I liked solving problems or trying to think about ways that problems could be solved, looking for solutions. I really enjoyed connecting people with opportunities also. In my teaching, I always promoted critical inquiry and open discussion. And I always wanted my students to know that I recognized their basic humanity, that they were people. They had names. I knew their names. I can still call most of them by name when I see them at Rouse's, and remember exactly where they sat in my classroom. But I think that was an important function, just knowing and connecting with people. In leadership positions, I have tried to hold those same values, and I value those same types of activities as well. I think that collaboration and transparent communication and shared governance are vital components of a successful college. They are vital to empowering faculty to do their jobs, and we have got to let faculty do their jobs. That's what they're here for. Let them do their jobs. The mission statement for the college asserts our commitment to, and I'm sorry, I wrote it down. I can't read it, can't see, to creating critical thinkers and engaged citizens in a free society, and to preserving and enriching the culture of the region. And I think that already we are doing a fantastic job of that in the College of Liberal Arts. We show this through excellence in the classroom. We offer cultural activities that meet part of that mission as well. And while I think we're doing a good job, there's always room to grow, and I'm interested to see how that could happen. Finally, I believe truly that the liberal arts are more important now than ever before because we are preparing students for a rapidly changing world and for strengthening the intellectual and cultural core of the university. I think we're positioned to accomplish this in this college, and I would really like to have a part in that. I would love to lead that charge.
Thank you. For your first question, what is your plan for your first semester in office?
Okay, I know I have an advantage there in that sense, having been doing the job for a while, but that doesn't mean there isn't still time maybe to kind of recap, to get a feel of where things are now. So I think that it would be important to sort of reassess each department and see where they are, where they need to be, what their goals are. I'd like to become reacquainted with faculty. That's not to suggest that I don't know who they are, that I'm not acquainted with them, but I think just kind of another touch of what's going on here. And now looking forward to the next academic year. What are your plans and how can I facilitate that? How can I help you accomplish that?
Okay. What is the purpose of the College of Liberal Arts in relation to the purpose of the university?
So the College of Liberal Arts, I think, is in a position right now where we are trying to establish ourselves as a cultural hub. And I think there's part of that too that is connected to being an intellectual core, an intellectual center. The university seeks to be to retain the culture of the Bayou region. I'm sorry, I wrote that down so that I could remember it directly because I am a little bit nervous. But we are, as a university, preparing students for careers in life. And we are immersed in the Louisiana coastal community. I think we have those connections to the community. We are community builders. We're not the bearers of culture, but we certainly do endorse and spread cultural concerns and issues. So I think we are perfectly aligned to what the university's mission is. And of course, we teach a lot of the general education courses, which help with spreading some of those same values as well.
Okay, thank you. Can you share an example of an innovative initiative that you led that required cross-department collaboration?
I think that our high school day this semester was an innovative idea. Certainly, we have participated in Colonel Day, where we have students come to campus. Various departments have brought prospective students to campus also. But to have a collaborative effort, I think, was a new idea. And to get those students to come to us on a school day when the campus is really alive, when there are students here, when there are faculty actively engaged in work, that was maybe something that kind of set it apart from other activities. How was collaboration achieved? I think that was part of the question. Through discussion. I can't take credit for the idea necessarily because it came out of a department heads meeting where we were just kind of sharing some ideas, and I think everyone was kind of on the same page that we needed to do something different, and we needed to make this a group effort. So a discussion, working through the process, getting people to buy in by realizing that this was something that was in our best interest. And while it would take work and it would be hard and there would be sacrifice and things like that, that ultimately we want to ensure that we have wonderful things to offer. We just need the students to be there to take advantage of those. So I I think that that is the thing that I would promote as a good collaborative activity that we have engaged in. And we had cooperation from all departments. Other faculty were brought into it, students as well. Our students worked on this. And it ended up being something, I think, good that we have a foundation now to build upon.
How will you ensure that grade inflation in the College of Liberal Arts is either reduced or eliminated?
I am certainly aware of the fact that grade inflation or grade distribution is maybe not where we want it to be. I think in the spring of 24, the percentage of A's in our college was 46%. A year later, we had improved to 42%, which is not where we want to be necessarily if we are talking about saving those highest grades for students who are absolutely positively excellent, and then moving through the scale beyond that. I don't have some sort of magic bullet to solve that problem. I think the fact that many of us have become aware of it is a first step, that we know that it's something that is not limited just to maybe our classes in our department or something like that, but it's a larger issue. Next is having conversations in departments where department heads are taking back to their faculty. The data is shared every semester, at the end of every semester, looking at that data and figuring out where there could be problems, and then having disciplinary conversation. And I don't mean discipline like a spanking, but like in your own academic discipline, what does it mean? What does it mean for you to be truly excellent in history, achieving the highest in English? It's not going to be the same across all disciplines. So to have some sort of umbrella mandate, I think, doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, other than the fact that, okay, it's an issue and we do have to figure out how to deal with this, how to work on this. I know that there have been some measures in places where there are things that are really remarkable in the wrong way, and maybe faculty course reassignments have been made or something like that. I mean, those are things that can be done. Maybe someone really shouldn't be teaching online or something like that. But again, I think that's something that is a good discussion for departments to look at their own data and their own particular needs.
Okay, thank you. With the accessibility and presence of AI, what is your leadership approach for faculty to navigate monitoring authenticity in students' work?
That is an excellent question. And I think that whatever answer I have for that right now is going to change in a semester, right? Because this is something that is developing so rapidly. And I think that in the College of Liberal Arts, we have the view that AI is really bad, that we have demonized the use of it because we've seen, at least from the first wave of when it was hitting our classrooms, that what students were doing was just simply having ChatGPT write an essay for them. And maybe we've kind of struggled to get out of that mindset. I think that we have to figure out how to use. We have to figure out how to use AI. We have to teach our students. We have to talk to them more about what is acceptable and not acceptable. Have clear policies. Come up with more creative assignments that do put those checks in place. And again, have conversations with students about what it means to be academically honest, what it means to be dishonest, explain our policies and our expectations, because I think that's not always necessarily clear. And maybe we take for granted that our students understand what it means. But I don't think that they always do kind of get that idea of what they're doing is wrong. Some of them, surely they know they're doing wrong. Others maybe just don't understand why using Grammarly is not a good thing, what it means for the work and the authenticity of their work.
Thank you. Describe an instance where a student with a problem, complaint, or grievance where the parents also became involved. How did you address the issue in conversation with the parents? How did you address the issue with the student?
Dealing with parents is tricky. I don't think that I'm saying something that you don't know already. But of course, before talking to parents, I have to ensure that I can, that I'm not violating FERPA. So I check to see if there is a FERPA release on the student's record, but always confirm with the student as well. Is it okay for me to discuss this issue with your parent? When parents are brought into the equation, it becomes very complicated, because I think parents, they hear a side of the story that their student is telling them, which may not really align with what is happening or what has happened with the assignment, the classroom, the faculty member, or something like that. So the way that I've dealt with parents in those situations is, of course, making sure that I can talk to them, and then letting them tell me what their understanding of the situation is. What is the story that you are hearing? This is, in these situations, a lot of investigation has had to go on, because relying on one side of the story, of course, is not the smart thing to do. So there are multiple conversations with multiple agencies to figure out where the truth lies. I have learned that I have to keep the parents updated also, to let them know that something is happening, even if it's just a quick email, still looking into this. But I have to be honest with you in saying that I don't know that I know how to do it successfully necessarily. I just have the experience of having dealt with parents, and I'm still trying to figure out what the best way to go about it is, because each situation is going to be different also. I don't mind asking other people also what the other, the provost, HR, what the student life, the dean of students, Dr. Caruso, exactly how to navigate these situations to make sure that what I'm doing is fair, it's correct, it's going to lead us to a positive resolution.
What do you believe separates or distinguishes you from the other candidates?
I have been in the role of interim dean for a little over a year, so I have experience with the day-to-day activities. I was very fortunate when I served as assistant dean, because the former dean included me in a lot of conversations, a lot of situations. She shared information about things that were going on in the college. She was a really great mentor in that way of telling me what was going on, keeping me in the loop, letting me kind of talk through how I would handle the situation, and then telling me that I was wrong. No, I'm kidding about that. No, but letting me know that, okay, that is a path forward. Let me tell you what I would do. This is my experience. This is how things would go. And so we did work very collaboratively in those instances. And also, I benefited from those times when I was acting for the dean, when maybe she was on study abroad or there were other issues. And there were some pretty heavy things that then had to be dealt with, like some faculty issues or budget issues or something like that. So I think the short answer to it all is I think just the experience in the job is very helpful. And I think that sets me apart.
Okay, piggybacking off of that question. Having served as the assistant dean and interim dean for several years, what surprised you most about the position of the dean?
Okay. I have been very surprised by how much I think about toilet paper. Really, building issues and things like that have been extremely surprising to me. That we have really great building liaisons in the college. And so a lot of the burden is kind of put off on them. Nevertheless, when a faculty member comes into the office because there's a squirrel in a classroom, or there's a swarm of bees or something like that, or some sort of building made disaster, I think, okay, I don't know how to wrangle wildlife. So, that's been very surprising that that I'm concerned about that not constantly, but I have those concerns, and that I do have to pay attention to custodial services and things like that. I have still been surprised by people, that conflicts come up in ways where you think, I don't know why do you have a problem with that? And having to kind of navigate through, like, people are just being people, I get that, but still, I'm surprised how much of my time, some time is spent with conflict resolution, or just providing some kind of guidance on, okay, we can't say those things, but this is a way to do it, and let's kind of be nice here.
Okay. At this point, we're midway, so I just want to reiterate that audience members may ask questions of the candidate by submitting the written questions on the cards distributed by Ms. Chastity Record. The questions will be delivered to me at the podium, and then I will directly address the finalists with each question. If you need a card or you have completed a card, please raise your hand and it will be delivered to you. Please submit only questions on the submission cards. Next question. What is your plan for unifying COLA's identity as a college?
I think I've said this before. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think bringing constituents together and having conversations is really hard. Is not really hard. It is hard, but it's really important in creating a unifying vision. I guess first of all, and a question would have to be, what do we want our identity to be? I think that we want to be that intellectual and cultural hub, but this is not what I want it to be. I think it would be important to figure out what members of the college see. Well, how do we want to position ourselves? And then move those conversations on to, well, how do we do that? I think that we do need to raise the visibility of the college, that we need to make sure that, the word is getting out there of who we are and what we do, and that we can prepare students for jobs, and our students do get jobs as well. So I think that work to have that, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over this now. Work to get whatever that message out is going to come from within. You know, who do we want to be? How do we want to present that? And then what channels can we go through to ensure that that happens?
Describe a time when you had to advocate for faculty needs in a way that required balancing financial constraints with fairness.
We have had to fill some faculty positions in the last year. We've also had to hire a theater director, a new technical director of the theater. And in those situations, I think that there had to be some conversations about like, why do we need this? Are there areas where we need to fill one position more quickly than the other? Can this faculty member be hired as the new faculty member be hired as an instructor or an assistant professor? So those situations have arisen, and sometimes it comes down to data that makes the point, or looking at program needs, accreditation needs, those kinds of things. I think that's been the most successful way of advocating for certain needs, while also are prioritizing, seeing that these things need to be, this needs to happen, these needs must be met. But on the back end, this is what we can do as well. Patience is required, of course, to make sure that happens. But I don't know if I'm answering the question fully there. That's what I've got.
Okay. How do you view the relationship of administrators and policy? For instance, how do you decide when to act when no clear policy exists? How do you decide to take initiative and create policy or lead by administrative action?
So if no policy exists to dictate how a situation will be resolved, then I rely on lots of opinions. I talk to people in the areas where this situation may overlap, and figure out what a typical path has been or could be. I don't like to look at things just from my own point of view and just think about the way that I would handle something, but I like to consult the experts in these situations. And that may be a department head, that might be HR or a vice president or something like that. But I think getting the advice and opinion of others is very helpful. The second part of the question.
How do you decide to take initiative and create policy or lead by administrative action?
So creating policy, deciding if a policy does need to be created, I think that there is something that is consistently occurring, some issue that needs to be handled, then that sort of suggests to me that maybe we need some guidance in that area. And maybe it is time to have some kind of policy or some kind of practice, so that there isn't so much question about things. When do I take policy from administration? Sorry.
That's okay. How do you either initiate or create policy or lead by administrative action?
By administrator action, okay. if the situation is there is no policy, there is just a lot of lack of clarity, and something requires a more immediate response, then I'll take action with little to no outside influence. But that's something that I try to avoid as much as possible, because those types of decisions, I think, don't have the same sort of buy-in, or they like, I keep thinking of like, because I told you so, like how well do any of us really respond to that? I think that we're more responsive to a situation where there is something fair and balanced that comes from it.
If a student or faculty member came into the office with an issue without necessarily following the chain of command first, how would you handle that situation or issue?
I try to redirect the student. Well, I try to find out what's going on, first of all. Like, okay, what is it that you need? Where are you going? Where have you been? Have you spoken to anybody else about this? And then direct the student appropriately. If they have not followed the chain of command, then get them back to the original point of contention, if you will, so that person can maybe handle the situation more appropriately. I'm mindful of the fact that these situations can rise through the ranks, and I don't want to make decisions about something before people lower in the chain have had an option to resolve the issue. I think that's where it kind of crosses into that administrative decision sort of thing, an executive decision about it. Also, the same idea of, if these problems arise to my level, then I don't want to have solved the problem before it has maybe had some kind of chance for resolution elsewhere. I don't want to step on faculty members' toes or department heads' toes. I will inquire with the student what's going on, so I'm in the loop of it and I understand. I won't completely turn them away with just like, I don't want to talk to you or see you, please go back to the beginning, don't pass go. But I try not to get too involved at that point, if they haven't followed the proper chain.
What systems or structures would you strengthen to ensure accountability and transparency in institutional decision-making?
That is a tough question. Could you repeat that?
What systems or structures would you strengthen to ensure accountability and transparency in institutional decision-making?
Okay. I think chain of command is one of those, following chain of command, making sure that all of those levels are respected and adhered to. I think that's one way. I think that this is not a system so much, but transparent communication about what our needs are, what our expectations are, and communicating those up the chain also, to ensure that decisions that are coming maybe from above us do reflect those things that we have decided are important, and maybe that we need for some reason or another. I want to throw shared governance into that as well, because I think of the idea of us all making those decisions where it's not so one-sided. We're not looking at things from just one view. Yeah.
Okay, next question. The Chef John Falls Culinary Institute operates differently than traditional academic departments, including long lab hours, revenue operations, public service, and differential organizational structure. How would you, as the dean, support and advocate for those unique conditions while stabilizing and strengthening the unit and its programs?
I have to understand all of those different areas. Yes, the Chef John Foltz Culinary Institute is a very interesting unit. And from my experience of working with them, I see how they operate both as an academic unit, but then sort of as a business as well, in a way. And those two things have different needs and different, ways of performing. I think that the current structure in that area with a department head and a director helps to work those different worlds and have it make sense on an academic unit to have it on a campus. I think that those two roles need constant reevaluation to figure out what it is that one person does, another person does, how they overlap, how they converge. And those are the kinds of things that I need to be in conversation with these people as well, so that I can understand. I think the best way of supporting it is understanding why the things happen the way they do, reassessing why they do those things, and if those things need to be done in this particular way moving forward. I think that they are, and this is not for Culinary Institute alone, but I think many of us in our areas we get used to doing things the way that we've always done them. And we're not thinking about always how, do we still value that, whatever it is? Is this what we still want? And then if not, how do we move from that? How do we make the changes that we need to? And as I said, I think certainly with the Culinary Institute, that evaluation and assessment is the best way that I know to support what's going on, understanding and assessing.
Okay. Given your experience in the role, what skills other than leadership do you think are important for the position?
I think that empathy is really important. We're a college of feelers. And so I think that, just as I said about, in the classroom, wanting my students to know that I recognize their basic humanity, I think that faculty members want that as well, just to be recognized for who they are, what they do, why they do it, and to have some understanding. So I think empathy is very important. Advocacy, also advocacy for our programs, our people, our students. Support, thoughtfulness, listening, being just a good, sometimes, I'll have people in my office or calls where people just want to vent about something, and that's fine. Just kind of do that and you get it out and you move on. And I think that's really important, to know that there's that place, that kind of safe space there, and that can happen. And then we can kind of all move on with the things that we need to do. I think just knowing that there is support also is important in the role.
As the dean, what strategies would you use to address employee matters pertaining to human resources?
Again, education. First of all, understanding what's going on. I want to know what the story is. And then, of course, consulting human resources. Because I know the way that we operate in the academic world and the way we operate on a university campus is different from the way that things happen in corporate America. And sometimes I think as university personnel, as faculty members, we don't necessarily understand the policies, that HR process as much as someone who works 8 to 5, 12 months a year, 5 days a week. So I have relied a lot on HR in this last year, and I think that they're a very valuable resource to get looped in to the processes when there are employee issues.
What data is important in making decisions for the College of Liberal Arts, and to what extent will the data inform your decision-making process?
I think data that's important to us, of course, are grade distribution. That's certainly been on our minds. So that is important. Course enrollments, program enrollments, graduation rates, employer expectations. All of these kinds of things can help us decide where it is we need to go in our programs, which ones we need to strengthen, if we need to make any changes. We have to look at things too, like pass rate or drop rate in classes to see if there's something going on in our classrooms that could be affecting student success, because ultimately we want our students to succeed. So we need to look at that. I think all of those things help for decision making in the College of Liberal Arts, but the data is only one part of it. And like the raw numbers. I know that I'm coming from the perspective of an English major who deals with words more than numbers, and we don't math and things like that in English, but there is a story there. So any statistical data has to be balanced with situational issues as well. Why is this happening here? Can we make sense of this? What is the story from this? And we can't just rely on the hard number alone in things.
Getting to the end of the questions. Does anybody have another card that you would like to ask? Okay. So we will ask Dr. Theriot if she would like to give us a concluding statement.
Thank you again for this opportunity. These were good questions, some of them really tough, that really made me think about, I guess that's the point of it, right? They make you think about things. Imagine that. But it reminded me also of why I think the liberal arts are so important, like to come back to that idea and to see the kinds of things that are important to you is very telling to me. I firmly believe that the liberal arts do cultivate curiosity, and they create empathy in people, or they cultivate empathy and creativity and all of those things. And again, I think we are doing a lot of things really well in this college already. We have incredible faculty. We have good students. We have a great support system around. And I would welcome the opportunity to work with this college in the role of dean, and see where we go and lead where we go from now into the next several years. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Theriot, for your interest in serving Nichols. And thank you, audience, for your participation. You can now participate further if you like by submitting comments on this and the other candidates this week. You can do this in 2 ways. First, you may submit anonymous written comments to the comments box, which is on that side of the room. Or I lost my space. You may comment, the box will, after this, be placed in the office of the College of Sciences and Technology in 149 Kelgin Hall. Or you may submit written comments by email to cola.search@gmail.com. All comments will be reported anonymously. So thank you for attending.
Thank you.